back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today is a treat because I am joined by Anne Gillyard, co-owner of Playrooms. When Rachael Bozsik was here on episode 759, she brought Anne to our attention, right? Raving about what a great client Anne was and about the huge breakthrough they had in their work together. With Rachael's insightful guidance, Anne identified her ideal client and project type. Rachael described how Anne's business skyrocketed from that moment on, and I was immediately impressed and intrigued. Before becoming an innovative playroom designer, Anne spent a decade teaching and training other educational professionals across the country, focusing on STEM learning, problem-based learning, Montessori-style classroom environments, social-emotional skills, and in general, 21st century learning. Anne noticed a disconnect between how children play at home and how it could and should be optimized to develop the critical thinking skills needed for success in school and as members of society. That was when she co-founded Playrooms. One trip to her website and to her Instagram, and you will see how impressive these playrooms are. And it's super fun to scroll through and see what they have created together. I'm excited to share this interview with you. Now let's meet Anne. Hi, Anne. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Luann. I am so looking forward to this conversation.
I am too, because Rachael Bozsik first told me about you. She was on the show. I'll put her episode in the show notes. She's been here twice. Totally adore her. And she used you as an example of how, when you work with a professional to really uncover that unique you, which we used to always call it our Fred Burns only here, how you can really just up level your business. And she goes through the whole thing using you as an example. So I don't know if I said it to her on air or off air, but I was like, now I have to interview Anne. Come on. Right.
Well, I love that happened because it brought me here.
So I also think it's funny because I just learned from you that you actually were have been a listener of the show for many years, and you learned of both Rachael and Darla Powell, the head wingnut at Wingnut Social, from the podcast, and you've gone on to work with both of these ladies. And so I just love that. I think, it's important, and let's talk about this for a minute, Anne, okay? Because we have a lot to talk about with your particular business, but let's pick this apart right now. There is a thing where, tell me from your experience, you're listening to the show, somebody makes sense to you, they seem like a good person, maybe you go to their website, but sometimes we do that and we're all the way there and then we don't pull the trigger. But in at least these two cases, and I'm not sure if there's other consultants that you've hired throughout the years that you've listened, but in these two cases, you went all the way. And not for nothing, but these aren't $500 spends. These are true big girl investments in your business, right, Anne?
Yes, yes, they are absolutely big girl investments. And I often say, wow, that was a very big girl business choice that I just made.
Yes.
So, and those were two of them. And, I think we may get into this a little bit more later on, but part of actually a sneak preview, my background's in education, and part of my education practice was always self-reflection and just knowing where I am and knowing where I want to grow to and what the next step is. And so in all of these instances, I mean, I feel so lucky to have had your podcast, you as a resource, because going through the constant, like, here I am, and that's where I want to go, I was able to identify what my next steps are, right? In the case of Rachael, when I listened to her podcast, I was like, I know what my expertise is, but it's not getting across. It's just not landing with my ideal client. I can't find them. Where are they? I know they're there, and I want to speak to more of them. And I had my first ideal client, and I was like, I know there are more of them. And so when I heard her on your podcast, it resonated because I knew that was my next step. Right.
Interesting.
So I mean, of course, big girl business decision, they're always a little scary, but I knew that to make the change and to make the growth that I wanted to make, that investment in myself was the investment I needed to make, because I could take the kind of the VIP day that I did with her. I could take a day and grow the same amount that I could probably in 2 years.
On your own, trying to figure it out, listening to other episodes of the
Exactly.
podcast and reading books on branding and niche development and all of that, right?
Exactly. So it's like, do I want to get on the bullet train, or am I content with kind of going at this meandering pace through the park? And I have big goals and dreams, and so I decided to go on the bullet train, and having you as a trusted resource made that decision even easier. And I'm telling you, she up-leveled and changed my business like none other.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful to her.
It's interesting how she sees the things that are right there that we don't see, right?
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
crazy.
Absolutely. And for me, it was so much just this gift with language that she has. Like my approach has really not changed, but the way that I talk about my approach, the nuances, the pieces that I emphasize, she really understands I work with a luxury market. And so as many of your listeners do. And so she really fully understands who I'm trying to talk to, and totally changed how I run my calls, how I speak about myself. She gave me scripts. It was the most kind of rich, learning time that I've really had. And I feel truly lucky and thankful to you and to Rachael.
So give us, if you can think of an example of the way you might have previously had a conversation with a potential client and the nuance of the way she encouraged you to change the language when you go to the conversations now. Does anything come to mind, Anne?
So in the before times, it was really about, this is very educational, it's going to help your kids learn. It's very important for their growth and development. Right. Which is all true, and it's still true. But the way that she taught me to speak about it was, you are busy professionals, and you value leadership. You value 21st century skills, which include problem solving and negotiating outcomes, all of these really amazing thoughts and critical thinking that are so hard to teach in school. And guess what? Our brains start developing those skills from birth. That's something that you value, and you have so little time to kind of pour into that. So let your home help you do that. Your space can teach leadership, can teach independence, can teach critical thinking skills, can teach problem solving, all of these things that we as loving grownups want to pour into our kids.
Wow.
So it's you can see the difference, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm like, sign me up. I need one for all the grandchildren.
Right? Yes. So the content hasn't changed, but how I spoke about it does, right?
Yes.
And just like the way that we go in and analyze the toys or the furniture or the space that children are in now, she's like, oh, call that a play audit. that resonates with your audience.
That's awesome. This is her genius, right?
Oh, it's genius. It's genius. And it has
audit. Oh my
play
God,
audit.
right?
And it's always what we have been doing. But I'm telling you, I had a client visit in New York last week. And when I said, and we'll do a play audit, they were like, what is that? Tell me about that. That sounds like something I want.
Right.
And that's exactly, like, she just knew, and she has 100% changed my business.
That's crazy. It is. It's remarkable because when if any of you listening have hired her, you know exactly what we're talking about. And if you haven't, you just imagine this. It's everything you always did. And it's just a whole different lens on it. And it's crazy because, I mean, look, we are all entrepreneurs. Every single person listening to you is an entrepreneur or is about to be. And how actionable is that, those two words, play audit, as opposed to, I'll come and look at the space where your kids are playing now. I come and look at your playroom. It's the same darn thing.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly. And I'm telling you, like, when I say we boarded a rocket ship after having that that time with Rachael, I really, really mean it. So
you are definitely one of her poster children, right? Like, because a lot of us, we take the advice and we do the things, and we it's made a difference in our businesses. But you are one of the people that it was like boom, just like that, right?
I am just insatiably a learner. And like I said, just a reflector. It was kind of built into me and my decade plus as an educator. And so, I don't look I take those lessons, I grab them and I run with them, full speed. I
love it. And I'm thinking about the difference in the way you describe what you're going to deliver. You're basically talking to these parents and tapping into the aspirations they have for their children as humans out in the world, because these are the same people that are looking at the various members of their team and thinking, can you just think for yourself, please? Please. Why do I have to tell you A, B, C, D, E, right? And so here you are, you're tapping into their aspirations that their children are going to be the best critical thinkers and they're going to be forward thinkers. And then you're saying, and not only are you so busy, but you don't have the tools because I have the perfect playroom to make them learn this. Like, it's nuts. I love it.
Yes. And it's funny that you say that, because one of our wonderful, wonderful clients is an amazing tenured professor. And she and her husband is a tech entrepreneur. And she came to us and she was like, my students don't know how to think. And I'm looking at my children and I need them to play because that is how they will learn how to think. And I'm panicking because they're not playing. And
they're watching, what is it called? Like Coco Melon on freaking TV.
Right. So, and just, in that particular case, when we finished the project and heard back from her a month, hers is a really interesting project, but when we heard back from her in a month, she was like, and I literally cannot get them out of this space.
Oh gosh, that's amazing. It reminds me, Anne, I told this story, I think once, my daughter, Christy, she went to public grammar school and then went to all girls high school. And there were many reasons, all of them having to do with awful experience with mean girls in middle school, that I was like, that's it. She's out. She's not going to high school with these ladies. It's not happening. It's, I was like, no. And so I said to my husband and to her, you're going to a different high school and you're going to an all girls school. And, it was cute because I have very rarely do I have the hammer in our house. But when it came to like Christy, the kid, especially, it was my way or the highway, or you can do all the things because I do all the picking up, all of the shuffling, all of the things, right? And so this is a big life decision thing. And I just said to him, no. I said, she needs to go to all girls. I know it's what she needs in my gut. It was one of those inner goddess moments. And when I sat down, he goes, well, if Christy agrees. And I'm like, see, it's not a democracy. This is what's happening. And so he still pretended to think it would be if she agreed. And, he's cute. And sometimes, by the way, 98% of the time he tells the how it's going to go. And that's the truth, right? But anyway, So the thing is, I did sit her down. And the thing was, she was ready for it. She was so traumatized by the middle school experience that she was ready for any change. And the only thing she did say to me is, does it have to be all girls? And I said, yes, it does. And she said, okay. So, but now we had to go to select the all-girls school. So now we go on the little tour in the fall of 8th grade of, go visit this open house. And it was so funny because when you think back, now she is going to be 34 years old in a couple of months. And this would have been when she was 13 years old in 8th grade. This is burned on my brain cells. Every school was great. So I'm thinking every designer is great. Every designer, I expect you to do a beautiful room. Every designer, I expect that you know what you're doing. But there's always going to be this one line that your potential client hears that just says, that's it. You're the one. And so often when you listen to the show, you're looking for this major differentiator, and it really is rooted in your beliefs usually, right? So here you are, you're saying, do you want to, you want to raise critical thinkers, blah, blah, blah. We go to 4 or 5 all-girls schools. One is as good as the next, and I'm personally having a hard time thinking which one would I want her to go to, let alone, taking into account her opinion and Vinny's opinion. But we go into this one school and we have the assembly. We tour the whole school in different groups of parents. And at the end of it, they bring us to assembly and the principal is talking. The principal talked for 45 minutes. Here's the sentence I heard. I have no idea all the other sentences.
Right.
Here's a sentence I heard. I understand that as business owners and executives and all the things, however she described her audience, which she knew exactly who she was looking at. People who are accustomed to getting their way is exactly what she was saying. I get you're usually the boss wherever you go is what she was saying. And whatever nice inside, outside voice words she used to describe it. But she basically set us back on our butts for a second. She basically said, I know you usually get what you want where you go and when you go there, right? But she goes, but this is my school. And at this school, I am charged with turning out young women who can think and act and do for themselves. And so when you send your daughter here and she comes home to you and she says that she has any problem, big or small, do not call my office. Do not call the teacher. Do not call the dean of students because we won't take your call. Your daughter needs to learn how to navigate life's problems. Your daughter, if she wants that problem addressed, will bring it to us. She will bring it to the teacher, to the dean of students. It will go all the way up the chain. When it finally reaches me, if I think I need your opinion to solve this problem, I will call you. But don't call me, lose my number, because I am putting women out of this school. And I would look at Vinny, I'm like, write her a check. You know what I mean? Like, there's just these things that you just tap into, and that's what you're doing now, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's what Rachael helped me do was identify the messaging that resonated with my clients.
Right.
And
it's
that
so
was
powerful.
where I was kind of had like a breath, like a waft of kind of like the flavor of what they wanted to hear, but it wasn't specific enough. And I'm working with high functioning professionals who are type A and very, very good at what they do. And they don't have a lot of time. So I have to cut through the noise and be so specific and speak to exactly what they want to hear.
Yes. Okay. So how many years were you running the business? Was it a year, 2, 10 before you met Rachael?
So it was 2 years.
Okay. And the pipeline pre and post is dramatically different. And really, actually it's funny. I'll give you a little bit of background context. We actually didn't start out as a children's interiors company. I started out as a curriculum company. So I actually was designing a curriculum for families and caregivers. And we realized we couldn't give grownups one more thing to do. We needed to make less things for them to do. And that's where we came to, I wonder if anyone would pay us to design an environment that helped taught their children.
And the answer was yes. So really, like, we did kind of start working with Rachael. We were a curriculum company for about a year, and then started working with Rachael, about a year into us really committing to designing spaces. Wow. For families. And you are 100% right. The pipeline was not only fuller and more beautiful, but also just filled with more of my ideal client and fewer of the lovely people in my community who are just not good fits for me.
That just never are going to be able to afford it. I mean, exactly. in plain English, right? I mean, exactly. It is a luxury to have someone build a learning environment for your children in your own home. That's why there's preschools out there, right?
Exactly. And I was kind of having this pain point of like spending time on intake calls for people who are like, oh, I have a budget of $5,000. I'm like, no, I cannot, I cannot work with you. This is not, we are building really, and now we have virtual options where I could support someone with a smaller budget. But at the time I was like, this is not my ideal client. I knew that reflection. I knew that I needed help getting to where I wanted to be. Thanks.
There's things in all of our lives that we're never going to be able to afford the professional for, or we're never going to actually value it enough to make that investment. And there's, there's YouTube and podcasts and books and things to fill in that gap. That's just the way of the world. It's like whether you have a personal chef or you schlep yourself to the grocery store every day. I mean, we all have our decisions that we make, right? Mm-hmm. So and just before I move to the next topic, which I want to bring up Darla and how you've grown your social following. But I do know that your company has developed to the next level where you are now in collaboration with other interior designers. So if a designer is listening and they feel like they have the right client for this and they're doing the client's, say, whole first floor or wherever it may be, and they are like, my client would love this type of learning environment built into their house for their children, but I don't have this knowledge. Now you're partnering with designers to do that, Anne?
Exactly. And they're some of the best relationships and clients and just experiences that we get to have when a luxury architectural firm reaches out to us, or one of our luxury designers who then become very good friends reach out and they're like, you know what? Our client values these things for their children. They just asked for a zip line through the hallway. Can you please help me? Because I do not want to touch this. I just was in New York visiting an interior designer client who wanted a zip line through the hallway. I'm like, I got you. No problem. That's what I do on every Tuesday. So yes, it's kind of like you have this expertise. You can bring this next level of benefit to my client. This thing I didn't even know that they were interested in. I mean, I know they love their kids, yes. But then if I pour into them, like, I'm not just getting you an interior, like a children's interiors. I'm getting you someone who has lived and breathed in developmental research for the past 20 plus years. Wow. And you can ask them anything. Wow. Because with our full service clients, we are there and we are like, this is where they are developmentally now. And in 5 years, this is where they're going to be. And in 10 years, this is what you're going to have to think about.
Wow.
So just bringing that additional service to their clients ends up benefiting them. And then we benefit because we create these awesome relationships with these wonderful professionals. So when we have a client and they're like, can you do our kitchen? We did one kitchen, Luann. Never again.
Never again, right? Never again. Stay out of the lane. It's not your spot, right?
Nope, not my spot. I know where I am. And I turn clients down quite often.
Yeah, I imagine you do, because you probably develop a tremendous trust with them when you do the room in the house for the children, and they just expect that you could go on to do another room, but that's not the case.
No, I do not do primary bedrooms.
Right.
I do not do, do you want to grab a cup of coffee and let's chat ideas? Sure, I'll do
Right. I
that
can
with
pick
you,
the
but I'm
colors.
not going to give you professional advice. I have these 4 designers who I think will really suit your taste. Let me give you their contact information. I send over a text to the people who I think are the best fit. Hey, my client might be reaching out to you, so and so and so, such and such and such. Are you interested? Do you have availability?
Right.
And I connect them. And it's just this wonderful relationship. And we've started building out a program for designers and architects it's essentially like a thank you program, right? If you're bringing us into a project, we want to be able to thank you with a percentage and make sure it's a beneficial relationship for both of us.
I love that. And I love it's no different than if a designer collaborates with a cabinet maker, right?
Exactly.
The cabinet maker isn't now going to decorate the bedrooms. It's like
Exactly.
you don't have to worry about the cabinet maker stealing your clients, right? And you're the same way. You have no desire to do anything other than the learning room, the playroom that you are hired to do. And so therefore you're also a valuable referral back partner. That's awesome. And just before we close that little end of the conversation out, for designers listening, what is there an ideal age range where the design for these types of playrooms? 2 things I want to know. Is it so, in other words, their kids are 12 and 14, too late, sorry, or it doesn't matter, or ideal is birth to 5? Is age range matter in the way you would approach designing a room?
So the answer to that is we design rooms for kids birth to teen, from playrooms to bedrooms. That's really our sweet spot,
Okay.
Playrooms and bedrooms. And the reason why 12 to 14 is not too late is there is still so much development. And what I like to say to my clients is I like going to the gym. Your humans like moving their body. Your 12-year-old and 14-year-old want to move their body in just a different way than they did when they were 4. Right? And also developmentally, what's happening in their brain is they are identifying who they are. They're building that identity and they're creating relationships with peers. And so creating a social area, a lounge becomes really important. There are just certain things that change kind of after the age of 8, between 8 and 10. So 10 and younger, the playroom can look a little bit different than kind of 10 and older.
Okay.
And those middle ages can be a little fluid. Like if a client comes to me with an 8-year-old, I'll set them up with a playroom that's meant to serve older kids because they're kiddos right on the cusp. Right. But yeah, so like all ages, and it really also becomes a family space, right? Because especially when your kids are younger, you have to supervise them.
Right.
Or you
have to keep them alive.
Come over, right? Play dates come over.
Right.
Yeah, you got to keep them alive. Step 1. But play dates come over. You want somewhere to sit with your friends, have an adult beverage, whatever it is, and watch your kids, and you get social time.
Right.
So it becomes this room that serves the entire family, and on into kind of teenagerdom. If you have a maker or an artist or a tinkerer, and maybe you have like a weekly date where maybe you're coloring in your adult coloring book, but they're doing some sort of project building a sculpture out of cardboard, right? But it's a way to kind of stay connected, and we help our families brainstorm what resonates for their particular family and how to use the space to build those relationships. So ultimately, the thing that matters most in kids' lives is having a true, deep connection with their family members, or like an adult that really cares for them. So
nice. Very nice. Very nice. I love it. Okay. So the other thing that you did was that you have literally blown up your social media presence with the expert advice. You hired Wingnut Social to manage your social. And so tell us some of, I know Darla and her team can lead us through, probably a social media audit to begin with, like where you are and what are you doing or how are you doing it well. And then they can turn around and lay out the plan. But this is one area where if we as the client if we're not on board, it's going to just make their job 10 times harder, right? And so tell
Yes.
us about your journey in working with a social media firm, Darla and her team in particular, but what would you share, the benefits, the things to, okay, be prepared for this, or, the pluses and minuses of this expert that you hired?
Yeah. Well, again, my kind of push to hire Darla came from just not a lot of growth on social. And we were prime in pandemic time. Like it was still at pre-vaccines for kids, which was mattered a lot to my business because we are a word of mouth referral business, but no one was going to each other's houses for play dates.
Sure, right.
So we were kind of in this, like, the clients we are getting are from social. We're building a loyal following of our 3,000 people and growing at the rate of a inchworm. And I was like, I have big goals.
I can't wait around for this.
Yes, I am not going to wait. I need an expert. I don't know. And I certainly don't have time to become an expert. And I certainly don't have the interest in becoming an expert in social media. In fact, when we very first started, we were still a curriculum company. I looked at my business partner and she's like, I think we should start an Instagram. And I said, no. So by the time I hired Darla, I'd come around to the fact that I really needed social. And we hired Darla, and I believe 2 months later, we hit 10,000.
Wow.
And we've been climbing ever since. We're just below 45,000 at this point. And it makes a huge, huge difference. We probably get between 20 and 30 inquiries a month just from Instagram for our variety of suite of services. And it's made all of the difference. It's helped get us through this last, the pandemic is still around, but families are starting to feel more comfortable. There are vaccines for kids of all ages. And so now that our referral based business is actually starting, it's a nice complement to this funnel that we've been able to create with Darla. But it does require commitment. For sure. And I have lots of tips and tricks. I'm happy to share kind of my number one trick for social. I don't know if you're interested.
I'm interested 100%.
Okay. Well, I think my biggest aha that happened, because video is where it's at.
Right.
Video. And of course, that's the most time consuming piece of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to be. My biggest aha happened when I was like, oh gosh, again, I came up to this hard place of I know I need video to get where I'm going. But what am I going to do? Where am I going to do this? How am I going to do it? We do photo shoots every month. The rooms are staged. They're beautiful. My team is there. So I have plenty of hands to help hold the phone and chase me around the room as I do any number of things. You should look.
Your social is awesome. I'm going to tell you what, when you look at your feed, if you didn't know, if you just saw the pictures, it looks like a professional feed for a professionally produced children's show.
Oh, thank you.
That's what, if somebody said to me, here's, 12 grids, look at them, what do you think it is? I'm like, that's that's the new Mr. Rogers right there. Here's this woman that's in every third or fourth post. She's adorable. She's expressive. The rooms behind her are amazing. I'm like, this has got to be a kid's show. That's what I think it is. It looks incredible. And your videos are outstanding. I start watching one, next thing I know, I'm like, Luann, you have work to do. You have to walk away from Anne now.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying them.
I am.
But yes, the biggest kind of aha was using a place where I already am, a place that shows my work, my team's work, and taking advantage of that day of being on site and just doing as many pieces of content as humanly possible.
So what you're saying is you schedule the photo shoot. You let your clients know, I'm sure, like at most designers, at the beginning, we're going to photograph at the end. We're going to have a professional come in and do it. And you basically are saying to them, look, you can sit in the next room or you cannot be here, but I'm going to be in the room for X amount of hours. We're going to shoot the room and then we're going to create X amount of videos or something while I'm here.
Yeah. So we actually ask to take the playroom back from the family for 2 days, and we humbly apologize. But our clients are wonderful, and they are so supportive and so happy to see us grow. And again, most of them found us on Instagram.
Yeah, so they want to be there too now.
Yes. So we go and we stage the day before, and I use the kind of the half day, the day before, to do all of the reels. So I'm not in the photographer's way.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question.
I used to do it on the same day if we needed to. So it's totally doable, for anyone listening.
So here's the thing. You went from 3,000 to 43,000 or whatever followers in the course of months, okay, with the direction from Wingnut Social. You're still the same adorable, creative, vivacious person that you were when you were, trucking along every 20 people to get to 3,000. So is it, it's this change by doing it in the environment, but is it something where Darla and her team are like, here's the 5 things you need a video out or about, or did they focus you the way Rachael did on what the content should be? Because there has to be, what is the secret sauce of you described the secret sauce of working with Rachael, which was she really helped you understand the way to reach your ideal client with using the language and the words that they would respond to. So what would you say was the thing that Darla and her team did that created that impactful change in the social following?
I will do my best to describe it, but it's that social secret sauce that I don't understand is what they did, right? It's like it's that understanding of social, that the hashtags are changing, that we're engaging with, they engage with other people who then share my content, right? There's this whole, they've developed a strategy that I was completely lacking before.
Okay. So that's the key right there.
Yeah.
It's an actual strategy. And you know what? And I can relate to that. And the thing about it is if it were honestly easy for you to describe that strategy to us, then we wouldn't have the need for a business like Darla's,
exactly.
right? She's doing all of the research and finding out all of the things. But you see, that satisfies me because and I have to say, I'm even more impressed at Darla and her team with when you take someone like yourself. And I am not doing this to be overly complimentary. It is a simple fact. Go look at Anne's website. Go look at Anne's Instagram. She is legitimately the poster child for this type of product. I can't believe you said you were in, education for 20 years. I'm like, she's 30. Like I'm going to say you look young. You're just happy. You just have that, I'm going to be a TV, children's TV guide. That's who you come off at. And so what I'm saying is, it's even more impressive because I would have thought someone with your background in education, your actual, the way you present yourself and come to camera, I would have said, oh, she'll grow to 40,000 by herself. You know what I mean? And to know that that's the thing. It's the strategy. And that's what makes me believe that we don't have to be as cute as you, and we don't have to be as vivacious, and we don't have to look like a whatever star in our lane, because the strategy is the differentiator. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, thank you for all of the kind words.
It's true.
But I do really agree with it is the strategy. And that's where I very much know where my expertise lies. It's not in kitchens. It's not in social strategy.
Right. See?
I know that, when I identify what is the next thing that's going to help me help my team and my brand grow, I seek an expert.
Yes.
And Darla and her team have created this strategy that has moved us from like point A to we're still going. I don't even know where in the alphabet we are right now. But it's that strategy that, and honestly, that I didn't have to learn. Right. I didn't have.
Right.
That
You don't have to
wasn't
sit there and, study all the boring stuff on how Meta wants us to do our stuff. It's like, who cares, right? It's like trying to learn kitchen design. You don't care about it, right?
Yeah.
And it's too technical to just, I think I'll just do it, right?
And it changes all the time, right?
Yeah,
and then you see, your Instagram colleagues and friends complaining about the algorithm doing X, Y, and Z new thing. And I'm like, I'm so happy I don't have to think about that. I'm going to let someone else think about that.
That's it. I love it. I love it. It's so good. And then the final thing that I want you to speak to us about, this is the part that's you. Is, here, all of it's you. You have to be the one to have the courage to go out and listen to any podcast, let alone mine, to understand that I don't know everything. There's something else to learn. So that each one of us, when you go out and you read books and listen to podcasts and search YouTube for ideas, that's showing courage. That's showing a willingness to say somebody else might know something better than me. So that's you. Then it's you when you have the courage to pull the trigger, to hire an expert that you just said to yourself, you know what, this feels like a big investment, but that's okay because I have big dreams. And so those are you as well. And I commend you for doing those. But the one true thing that is you is your practice of reflection. You mentioned it earlier, and I'd love for you to take us back to that. And, how does it play a role in you developing your business and having the confidence in the decisions you make, and how you, plan out where you want to be? You do it through reflection.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about that, Anne.
Yeah. So, and it is so prevalent, really everywhere. And even, I'm feeling like, I can talk about the autopsies that Luann talks about on her podcast all the time, because that's reflection. It's a form of reflection. I can talk about, when we reflect, we think about where we want to go and where we are. And so every time a designer thinks about where she or he wants to take, or they want to take their client, and then think about where they are now, we have to be reflective of the steps to get from A to B. And so it has really become a practice. And again, I learned a lot about it through education, thinking about students, thinking about my own practice, right? If I have a student who comes to me 2 years below grade level, and I need to grow 3 years by the end of the year in order to get them ready for the next year, where is the deficit? Where are we now? Where do we want to go? And then let me backwards plan all of the tiny little steps to get there. Yeah. When you're talking about the autopsies that you do, we do them regularly. We do them within our team, because I have a couple of different teams in my in grOH. And so we do team autopsies within the project. And then once a quarter, we come together and we bring all of the data from all of the autopsies, look at them together, and then we do autopsies together. And we say, okay, well, here's where we are. Here's where we want to go. What are the 3 most important things that we can do? It also is anytime, I like to say it's going to school. Anytime we have a client who takes us to school, right?
That's clever.
It's like we don't necessarily want to take that class again, right? Like we want to okay, we made that mistake. They took us to school. Now let's make sure we never have to repeat that class. And that's how I work with all of my employees. Well, what did we learn from that? We never want to take that class again. It's not like, that was a costly mistake. That was this, that was that. It's never, right? Reflection, I don't think we never want to dwell in the negative or the things. We can get in a spiral and get really stuck. But we think about that was a class that I just got through. What did I learn? And based on what I learned, what can I change? What's in my power? What is in my power? What is in my control to change so that I never have to take that class again?
Yeah, so good. Tell me about, the things that you are gathering? Because I know, look, all of it's great. And basically you're saying is sit and plan where you want to go. And in order to know where you want to go, you have to figure out where you've been and what worked and what didn't work, right?
Exactly.
And you make your new decisions based on it. But you also said that we are taking the autopsy from each department and getting that data together and then every quarter reviewing it. And I'm sure many people say, well, what kinds of things? Like what kinds of things are you bringing together to that meeting to review?
Oh my gosh. So we have our design teams. So what we will do is the number of revisions, the number of hours it took to design something, the number of additional meetings. We have a pretty, makes sense. We were teachers, so we have a pretty strict A to B to C to D delivery of the design. But there are some clients who step out of that prescriptive model. So what happened, right? Like, and some of it's anecdotal and some of it's numerical. But like how many additional meetings, how many additional phone calls, and so much of that is to say like, okay, so we charge a flat fee. So based on that, are we charging appropriately? Like, are we pulse check? Is that working out? Right? Are there certain, and then we look at overall client feedback on the design and things like that on the design side. And then we have an installation and project management team. And so for them, it's number of days on site, number of like issues with contractors. How much did we go over budget? What were things, how many things were missed in the renderings? All of these different pieces. And so we look again at the numbers and we look at like, did it feel successful? Right? Did you walk away feeling proud? Because so much of it is also how we feel. And we cannot design children's playrooms if at the end of the day, we don't feel good.
Right. You don't phone that in.
Yeah. We don't phone it in. And for us, like, we want to make those changes culturally as a company to make sure that everyone is feeling happy and proud. And so that's also a part of that reflection. But then there's also financial numbers. So like, what was the profit and loss for labor, but also materials? And we are able to, we run those numbers in the departments frequently and regularly for each project. And then by the quarter, the whole team sits and kind of looks at an aggregation of all of the numbers. But my co-founder and I are looking at the reports the whole time. So if we see like, this project was a problem for design and for install, let's all get together and talk about it. Like, and then, I see that this one went really, really well. What did you do? Let's do that again. Or this one, I see that like everybody felt really crummy about. Like, what was it? Was it just that we let a non-ideal client through, which sometimes happens?
Right.
Or was it something that like design didn't communicate well to install, so it's about kind of constantly just taking a look at those, and the data is just almost like a flag, like, hey, look over here, hey, start asking questions about me, and that is our sign to open up the door and just start being curious. And that's where the reflection really comes of like, well, why did that happen? That's what happened. What can we do so that we never have to take that class again?
That's amazing. And that's amazing. I love that. I mean, the things that you are gathering the data about are really things that can impact your business in such no wonder you have grown at the level that you have. 1,000% in 1 year.
Yeah.
Come on. That's crazy. I mean, when I just think about that, tracking the number of revisions on a project, the number of meetings that a project took, the number of, that's so critical because to your point, number of hours that you spent on a project, that's so critical because to your point, if you find that 6 out of 8 are similar revisions, similar of, meetings, similar of hours, but you're not charging a flat fee high enough to do that. Well, 6 out of 8 is what it is. It's not a fluke, right? And I love that so much, as opposed to it being 1 out of 8 or 2 out of 8 that are the enigmas, but the others fit into the pricing model. And so good. And then to think that you do it with the project management side and then the financial side. See, we always just do the financial side. It's interesting because at WindowWorks, we've been struggling with how to put metrics into place for some of these other sides, for the installation side and stuff. And it's a conundrum. And so that's so cool. I mean, no wonder you're doing so good. I mean, honestly, it's like I said, I know that you can hire Rachael, Darla, any of the amazing experts that have been on this podcast, but you also have to come to the table with something going on between the ears, and you definitely do. So.
Oh, thanks. That's, oh my gosh. I have to, you mentioned that I've been a long time listener, and I really have. And so to hear you say that, it's just truly full circle. I'm like, oh gosh.
Well, you guys, it's just, there's just certain times when I just go, whoa. I think that's why I love doing this, and that's why I'm never bored, because something gets me in every conversation, whatever it is, and it's just really impressive. And I love it when you can teach me something. And you've taught me quite a few things today, and I really appreciate, I really do. I really appreciate your spending your time with us. I appreciate you sharing all of this with us, and it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun to watch you continue to grow this.
Oh, thank you. Again, we have big dreams, so I can't wait to tell you all about it when we get to the next step.
That's it. We'll have to do it again. Thank you so much for being here, Anne.
Oh, it was a true pleasure, Luann. I really enjoyed our conversation.
So it turns out that Anne is a longtime listener of the show, and that makes me very happy and very proud, not only because of the compliment, because I love when you guys learn about the consultants that you need to up-level your business, and you get the chance to feel like you get that first introductory, that discovery call just by listening to the podcast. So that is a high five in my life. Now, in this process of self-reflection that Anne undertook, she understood that her next step was getting more of her ideal clients. And when she heard Rachael on the podcast, she said to herself, Rachael might just be that someone that could help me. And boy, oh boy, did she, right? Rachael did what Rachael does best. And she helped Anne properly represent herself with her words, her branding, all the things. Rachael taught Anne how to speak exactly and directly to the high-functioning Type A professionals who don't have a lot of time, but want the best that money can buy for their children. Before working with Rachael, she wasn't specific enough in her pitch. And this is what we all relate to, right? When we're not specific in a pitch. You heard my story about deciding on which all-girls school for Christy. It's when we hear exactly what we need to hear, even though we didn't know that's what we needed to hear, that it resonates with us. So I'm going to put the links in the show notes to the other episodes that what Rachael has been on so that you can dive into those. And, there's lots of stuff that you can take away right into your business off the bat. All right. Now, in addition to Rachael, Anne also learned of Darla Powell and Wingnut Social through the podcast. And you heard her with Darla and her team running her social and guiding the strategy. Anne went from 3,000 followers to 40K followers in under a year. Now, this is significant growth. And let's just be real here for a minute. It's probably not what many of us would experience, even working with a top-notch team like Wingnut Social. I've talked with Darla about this. These results are a combination of two critical factors, not social media magic fairy dust, okay? The first, Darla explained to me, is the strategy, designed by an expert, an experienced, proven company like Wingnut Social. They know what works, what doesn't, what's hot, and what's yesterday news in social media. They also evaluate you when they go to work with you and what they really assess that you are going to do and what you will not do, what you can do, what you cannot do, what assets you have, and what investment are you willing to make to get those additional assets for social. And it's the same when people say to you, right? Oh, it must be so fun being an interior designer. I just love beautiful furniture too, right? And you think to yourself, yeah, that's what I do. I pick pretty furniture. So it's sort of the same thing with social. There's a whole lot that goes into it other than just like signing up for social media expert, right? Now, the second key that Darla explained to me is that it rests in each of our willingness as a client to commit to doing every bit of the strategy outlined for us by that experts. So what this means is no yeah, but girls or guys, right? Oh yeah, but I don't want to. Oh yeah, but I don't think so. Oh yeah, but are you sure? Many of us get advice, but then we pick and choose the parts to follow or to execute on. And that's why our results aren't always as amazing as what Anne got. And Darla said Anne was the ideal client. She trusted us, she listened to us, and she did the things that we agreed together we would do. She made the videos, she provided the collateral, and, she just came to it open, willing, and as that equal partner. Okay? Sounds familiar, right? Aren't your interior design results so much better when the client trusts you, listens to you, and does the things that you suggest? Yeah, I know. It sounds familiar. I know it does, right? So all the things are possible as long as we know social media isn't magic, and the companies that run social media strategy like Wingnut Social do not have magic fairy dust. It's hard work on everyone's part. And in this case, Anne included, right? That's how you create growth like that. You all show up, right? Now, Anne's business has grown so much in 1 year, and we know she's gotten many clients from her clear messaging, help with Rachael, her strong social media, help with Wingnut Social, but she also attributes it, rightly so, to her own self-reflection and the follow-up work that comes with that. This is that Erica Ward transferable skill, the one that she used from teaching, right? I always talk about the importance of doing an autopsy on every project. Hearing this multiple times on the podcast, Anne was relating to it because she said, along with her team, when she was in education, they would perform quote unquote autopsies on the students and the learning results. And she did that by determining where each of her students were educationally, where she wanted them to be, and what did it take to get there. Okay, so Anne means business when she does her autopsies. She reflects on everything, on the financial side, the project management side, and also how she feels about the project, right? If she walks away from building a beautiful children's playroom and it doesn't feel so good, she knows something's off. And what I love is that she pays attention to this feeling so that she can mitigate it, either right then and there or for the next time. This is the point of an autopsy, of self-reflection, to pay attention to the results you get and make different choices the next time, right? It doesn't do any good. It doesn't do any good if two things happen. We just keep running down the road, and we never stop and never do the autopsy and never reflect. And it also doesn't do us any good if we do that reflection, that autopsy, but we don't make any changes. So I love that Anne really does intentionally do this. And of course, the results are so clear in how her business is just growing by leaps and bounds. So I have to say thank you, Anne, so much for sharing your experience with us and your journey and how you got there. It was very, very interesting to learn about it. It certainly makes us understand the possibilities are there when we show up intentionally on all aspects of our business. And, I love that. I hope you do too. I hope that you love too when you hear that somebody has done something that maybe you have dreamed of doing. It makes it so that you get it. It's possible. And I love knowing that it's not magic fairy dust, don't you? Because that means you can do it. Because if it's magic fairy dust, then you've got to get some. And where is it? I don't know where it is. But hard work, intentional work, we know where to find that. That's right inside. All right? Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Anne. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannnigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.